I need to tell you about something that happened during a research study at a shopping mall. Scientists approached random shoppers. They asked half the group to recall 8 digits, asked the other half to remember just 2. Then they offered everyone a choice: fruit salad or chocolate cake. Here's what matters. The people juggling 8 numbers in their heads, twice as likely to grab the cake. The 2-number folks, they picked fruit. Your brain wasn't designed for modern financial decisions. Each choice you make depletes what researchers call mental bandwidth, and when that bandwidth runs low, your wallet opens wide. Today, we're examining something deeper than impulse buying. We're looking at the loop, the cycle you probably don't realize you're caught in. More importantly, I'll show you a system that requires 0 willpower to escape it.
Here's what research from multiple universities reveals. 40% of shoppers spend more than they planned in physical stores. That's not occasional weakness, that's systematic behavior. But here's where it gets interesting. Recent studies tracking actual household purchasing data found something unexpected. When people's favorite sports teams lost games, they were expected to win. Upset losses, household spending spiked within 3 days. Shopping trips increased. Hedonic purchases jumped. Negative emotional shocks triggered buying behavior. Not because people needed anything, because spending became the coping mechanism. Let me paint you a clearer picture. You have a difficult week at work. The stress builds like water behind a dam. Tuesday evening, you're scrolling your phone. An advertisement appears for something you've casually considered. Maybe new headphones, maybe kitchen gadgets, maybe clothes. The item costs $80. You don't need it. You know you don't need it. But here's what your brain calculates in milliseconds. I deserve this. I worked hard. Just this once won't matter. You buy it. Relief floods in. Dopamine releases. Your brain's reward system lights up like a pinball machine. For precisely 17 minutes, you feel better. Then the guilt arrives, not immediately crushing, but nagging. A background hum: I shouldn't have done that. I'm terrible with money. Why can't I control myself? That guilt becomes new stress, which builds throughout the week until the next trigger arrives, and the cycle repeats. Researchers call this the financial impulse loop. Stress generates emotional vulnerability, opens the door to impulse spending. Impulse spending provides temporary relief, but creates guilt. Guilt produces new stress. New stress seeks new relief. You're not writing this loop because you lack discipline. You're writing it because it's how humans are wired, and retailers know it. Now here's where most financial advice gets it wrong. Conventional wisdom says, make a budget, track every purchase, exercise self-control. Sounds reasonable, except research shows it doesn't work. Studies of university students found that 79% actively used budgets, yet 77% still made impulse purchases. Think about that ratio. Using a budget didn't prevent impulsive spending. It just added another layer of guilt when the spending happened anyway. Why? Because budgets operate on a flawed assumption. They assume your future self will have the same willpower as your current self when you're making the plan. They assume Tuesday evening you, exhausted from work, will remember and care about Sunday morning you's carefully crafted spending limits. But here's what actually happens. Researchers at multiple institutions studied self-control. They discovered it functions like a muscle. It fatigues with use. Every decision you make during your day, what to wear, which route to drive, which emails to answer first, what to eat for lunch, depletes your cognitive resources. By evening, your mental bandwidth has narrowed. Your resistance to temptation has eroded. One study found that stressed consumers showed reduced self-control even while attempting to manage money carefully. Financial stress itself lowered the capacity for financial discipline. It's a cruel paradox. The people who most need self-control find it hardest to maintain. And here's the deeper issue. Budgets require active decision-making at the moment of temptation. They require you to stop, think, calculate, and choose restraint precisely when your brain is least capable of doing so. Traditional budgeting puts all the weight on your weakest moments. No wonder it fails. Let me tell you about different research. Different approach in the early 2000s. Behavioral economists studied retirement savings. They discovered something remarkable. When companies automatically enrolled employees in retirement plans, taking a percentage from paychecks before workers ever saw it, participation jumped from 8% to 70%. Same people, same financial situations. Only one thing changed: the default option. This revealed a fundamental truth about human decision-making. We follow the path of least resistance. We accept defaults. We avoid making choices when possible. Researchers Richard Thaler and Thaler Benartzi developed this insight into a program called Save More Tomorrow. The concept was elegant. Employees agreed in advance to allocate future salary increases toward retirement savings. Not current income, future increases. 3 things made this work. First, it required one decision made once, not repeated willpower. Second, it tied savings to gains, not losses. People didn't feel they were giving up current spending. Third, it happened automatically. no monthly choices, no opportunities to change your mind. Results? At the first company implementing the system, savings rates nearly quadrupled from 3.5% to 13.6% in under 4 years, and 78% of eligible employees chose to participate. This teaches us something crucial. The goal isn't more self-control. The goal is less need for self-control. Before we build the system, you need to understand what's happening in your head during impulse purchases. Research in neuropsychology shows that impulse buying involves both cognitive and affective components. The cognitive part is the lack of planning. The affective part is the emotional response. When you see something you want, your brain processes it through multiple pathways simultaneously. The reward centers light up, anticipating pleasure. The emotional centers activate, especially if you're stressed, sad, or even overly happy. The rational centers try to intervene, but they're slower, weaker, and easily overwhelmed. Studies using brain imaging found that when people felt negative emotions, they were willing to pay up to 30% more for products than when they felt neutral. Sadness literally increased spending. But here's what's fascinating. The research also revealed that it's not just negative emotions that trigger impulse buying. Positive emotions do too. Celebration, excitement, happiness, these also open your wallet. Both states share something. They both reduce your attention to long-term consequences. Whether you're feeling terrible and seeking relief or feeling wonderful and wanting to extend the joy, you're not thinking about next month's credit card bill. Approximately 5% of the population meets criteria for compulsive buying disorder, but that's the clinical extreme. The rest of us, we exist on a spectrum. We use shopping as emotional regulation, sometimes consciously, often not. Studies of young adults found that low self-control directly enabled impulsive purchasing, but it also worked indirectly by making people more susceptible to targeted advertisements and social media pressure. You're surrounded by systems designed to exploit your psychological vulnerabilities. Every app notification, every limited time offer, every people also bought suggestion. They're engineered to bypass your rational decision-making. Fighting this with willpower is like fighting the ocean with a bucket. You need different tools. Here's the system. 3 accounts, 3 purposes, 0 daily decisions. First account, future fund. Second account, your monthly budget goes here. Third account, the impulse fund. Let me explain each carefully. The future fund account, this handles planned indulgences. Big purchases you actually want. Things that matter to you. Maybe it's a vacation, maybe it's new furniture, maybe it's a hobby you're passionate about. Whatever brings you genuine satisfaction, not temporary relief from stress, but real lasting enjoyment. Set up automatic transfer. Small amount, maybe $20 per paycheck, maybe $50. Depends on your situation. The amount matters less than the automation. This money is untouchable for regular spending. It's building towards something specific, something you've identified as genuinely valuable to your life. Why does this work? Because humans need something to anticipate. Research consistently shows that looking forward to positive experiences generates happiness. Sometimes more happiness than the experiences themselves. When you eliminate all discretionary spending, you create psychological deprivation. That deprivation builds pressure. Eventually, it explodes in massive impulse purchases that dwarf what you saved by being restrictive. The Future Fund account provides legitimate outlet. It says, yes, you get to enjoy your money, but strategically, intentionally. Your main operating account, this is where your regular income arrives. Bills get paid from here, groceries, gas, routine expenses. But here's the crucial change. This account is not your decision-making account, it's your execution account. The decisions have already been made by the automatic transfers you set up. After those transfers happen, future fund, retirement, other savings goals, what remains is truly yours to spend. No guilt, no calculation, spend it. This eliminates decision fatigue. You're not constantly wondering, can I afford this? The system already answered that question. The impulse fund. This is the one that surprises people. And it's the most important. Set aside a small specific amount each month for pure impulse purchases. $20, $30, maybe $50 depending on your income. This money has one rule: spend it on whatever impulse strikes you, guilt-free. Sound counterintuitive? That's because conventional advice treats impulse spending like alcoholism. Complete abstinence is the only answer, but research shows that approach backfires. Studies found that restrictive budgeting increased stress. Increased stress triggered emotional spending. The cycle continued. The impulse fund acknowledges reality. You're human. You will have impulses. Fighting them constantly exhausts you and makes them stronger. Implementation is simple, genuinely simple. Step 1. Calculate your current monthly discretionary spending. Look at last month's credit card statement. Identify purchases that weren't bills or essentials. Add them up. Step 2. Decide your 3 numbers. How much for future fun? How much for impulse spending? The remainder stays in your main account for regular life. Step 3. Set up the automatic transfers on payday. Before you see the money, before you can make decisions about it. Most banks allow scheduled transfers. Set them up once. They run forever until you change them. That's it. The system is now running. Your job isn't to exercise constant vigilance anymore. Your job is to let the system run. Check in monthly. Adjust if needed. Otherwise, trust the automation. Let me show you what evidence supports this approach. Studies of automatic savings programs found they increase participation rates dramatically. Not because they changed people's financial knowledge, because they changed the decision structure. Research on micro-investment platforms, apps that automatically round up purchases and invest the difference, found 59% of users made regular investments. 80% reported the platform helped them save. The common factor, automation. The decisions happened once, then the system executed them continuously. Studies tracking emergency funds found that having 3 to 6 months of expenses saved improved people's financial decision-making across the board. Not because they were spending from those funds, because the security reduced financial anxiety. Reduced anxiety meant better choices about regular spending. The impulse fund creates similar psychological effect. Knowing you have permission to spend guilt-free on small indulgences reduces the pressure that builds into large, destructive impulse purchases. One research study found that unexpected emotional shocks increased household spending within 3 days. But it also found this effect was concentrated in hedonic purchases, treats, indulgences, mood boosters. What if you had a legitimate pre-funded category for exactly those purchases? The emotional shock still happens, but the financial damage gets contained. People implementing this system make predictable errors. Let me help you avoid them. Mistake 1. Making the impulse fund too small. If you allocate $5 monthly, but your actual impulse spending patterns run $50, you haven't solved anything. You've just created another source of guilt. Be honest about your current behavior. The impulse fund should cover most of your typical impulses. Not all of them. That defeats the purpose, but most. Mistake 2. Rating the future fund account for regular expenses. This defeats the entire psychological benefit. That account represents genuine goals. Treating it as emergency money destroys your motivation to save. If you find yourself needing that money for regular bills, your system needs adjustment. Reduce the automatic transfers. Build a genuine emergency fund first. Mistake 3. Not automating. If you think you'll manually transfer money each month, you're back to relying on willpower. Willpower fails. Automation doesn't. Mistake 4. Creating too many accounts or too complex a system. 3 accounts, 3 purposes. Simple. If you design some elaborate scheme with 8 accounts and complex rules, you'll abandon it within weeks. Mistake 5. Expecting instant transformation. This system doesn't eliminate all impulse purchases immediately. It gradually shifts your relationship with spending. Give it 6 months. Watch what changes. Your brain hasn't changed much in 10,000 years, but your environment has changed radically. You're facing temptations your ancestors never imagined. 24-hour shopping, one-click purchasing. Algorithms predicting what you'll want before you want it. You cannot fight this with Stone Age willpower. You need modern tools. Tools that work with your psychology, not against it. The 3-account system doesn't make you a different person. It makes being yourself less financially destructive. 40% of shoppers overspend their plans. Not because they're weak, because the system is designed to make them overspend. Fight the system with a better system. Set up those automatic transfers today. Not tomorrow, not next week, today, before your motivation fades, before you talk yourself out of it. Your future self will thank you. Not because you became more disciplined, but because you stopped needing to be. The financial impulse loop doesn't break through effort. It breaks through design. Design better, live easier.